Welcome, curious minds, to a world of knowledge and discovery. We're thrilled to present to you our video dedicated to proposed Croat federal unit in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Enjoy. The Croat federal unit in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or Croat entity, also informally known as the Third Entity, is a proposed administrative unit in Bosnia and Herzegovina based on territorial federalism and ethnic self-determination. The proposal has been invoked by several political scientists, politicians and political parties, including the Croat National Assembly HDZ BiH, HDZ 1990 and HSS. So far it has not been discussed beyond the concept level. Since the country is divided into two entities, the Serb-dominated Republika Srpska and the Bosniak-majority Federation, Croats, as one of the three equal constitutive nations, have proposed creating a symmetrical Croat-majority territorial unit. Political advocates for such proposal argue it would ensure Croat equality and prevent electoral gerrymandering, simplify the political gridlock while dismantle overburdening administration. Opponents argue it would further divide the country on ethnic grounds, thus breaching the constitutional principles, put non-Croats in a subordinate position, and lead to separatism. Let's now turn our attention to Bosnian War and Herzegovina and examine its role within a larger context. During the Bosnian War, Bosnian Croats founded their own sub-national entity, Herzegovina, which de facto functioned as a mini-state, with its own army, police, parliament and so on. The time has come to unravel the secrets behind peace plans and gain a deeper understanding. During the Bosnian War, international mediators and envoys proposed several peace plans that included forming three federal units in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 1992, EC diplomat Jose Cutuli sketched a proposal in which he stated that the three constituent units would be based on national principles and taking into account economic, geographic, and other criteria. In late July 1993, representatives of Bosnia and Herzegovina's three warring factions entered into a new round of negotiations. On 20 August, the UN mediators, Thorvald Stoltenberg and David Owen, unveiled a map that would organize Bosnia and Herzegovina into three ethnic mini-states. Bosnian Serb forces would be given 52% of Bosnia-Herzegovina's territory, Muslims would be allotted 30% and Bosnia Croats would receive 18%. Sarajevo and Mostar would be districts belonging to none of the three states. On 29 August 1993, the Bosniak side rejected the plan. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore confederal structure through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Confederal structure. In 1994, under the Washington Agreement, Croats joined their territory, Herzegovina, with the Bosniak government-controlled areas the Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina to create a subnational entity, the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina with joint institutions. The 1995 Dayton Agreement that ended the war left the country divided into two political entities, the Serb-dominated and controlled Republika Srpska and the Bosniak-Croat Federation. It was further divided into 10 autonomous cantons to ensure equality. The FBI government and a bicameral parliament were supposed to guarantee power sharing and equal representation to the less numerous Croats. Some dissatisfaction with this situation was displayed by Croats already in 1999 together with the calls for an establishment of a Croat-majority federal unit, but the Croat member of the state presidency dismissed it and called for strengthening of the principle of equality of three communities and of canton autonomy. As we venture forward, let's examine federation in detail and gain a deeper appreciation for its significance. In 2001, the Office of the High Representative OHR in the country imposed amendments to the Federation's constitution and its electoral law, complicating its structure and impairing the parity between Bosniaks and Croats that was up until then in force in the Federation. Since Bosniaks compose roughly 70.4% of BiH's population, Croats 22.4% and Serbs just around 2%. The Parliament's House of Peoples with equal representation for their nationalities is supposed to ensure that the interests of Croats, Serbs and national minorities are fairly represented during government creation and in the legislative process. However, ever since and foreign imposed amendments to the constitution and electoral laws, Croats have claimed that the election system for the deputies in the House of Peoples is rigged, depriving them of their rights to representation and in fact enabling Bosniaks to control the majority in the upper house as well. Namely, after 2002 each nation's deputies to the House of Peoples are elected by 10 cantonal assemblies, the majority of which 6 is controlled by Bosniak politicians. This dismantled checks and balances the federations Croats and Serbs had on the federal legislature as well as the executive, particularly government building. In 2010-14 Federation's government was formed and Federation's president appointed without the consent of Croat deputies in the House of Peoples, receiving just 5 votes of confidence out of 17. In March 2011 country's Central Electoral Commission declared Hop's composition and decisions to be illegal, but the High Representative Valentin Inzko suspended SEC's decision. After Bosnian Croat politician Bo Ljubi filed an appeal, in December 2016 the Constitutional Court found the election system of the deputies in the House of Peoples unconstitutional and abrogated the controversial rules. In 2005 Croat member of the country's tripartite presidency Ivo Miro Jovi said, "I don't mean to reproach Bosnian Serbs, but if they have a Serb republic, then we should also create a Croat republic and Bosniak Muslim republic." The Croat representative in the federal Bosnian presidency, Elkukami, opposed this, but some Bosnian Croat politicians advocated for the establishment of a third Croatian entity. Another issue Croats raised is the election of Croat member of the country's presidency. Namely, every citizen in the federation can decide whether to vote for a Bosniak or a Croat representative. However, since Bosniaks make up 70% of Federation's population and Croats only 22%, a candidate running to represent Croats in the presidency can be effectively elected even without a majority among the Croat community if enough Bosniak voters decide to vote on a Croat ballot. This happened in 2006 and in 2010, when an ethnic Croat, Elkukami, backed by multi-ethnic Social Democrat Party, won the elections with very few Croat votes. In 2010 he didn't win in a single municipality that had Croat majority or plurality. Nearly all of these went to Bojana Krito. Bulk of the votes Kami received came from predominantly Bosniak areas and he fared quite poorly in Croat municipalities, supported by less than 25% of the electorate in a number of municipalities in Western Herzegovina, such as Iroki Brijeg, Ljubuki 8%, Itluk, Posuj and Tomislavgrad, while not being able to gain not even 10% in a number of others. Furthermore, total Croat population in whole of Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina was then estimated around 495,000. Kami received 336,961 votes alone, while all other Croat candidates won 230,000 votes altogether. Croats of Bosnia and Herzegovina consider him to be an illegitimate representative and generally treat him as a second Bosniak member of the presidency. This raised frustration among Croats, undermined their trust in federal institutions and empowered claims for their own entity or a federal unit. In addition to that, 2 minorities representatives appealed to the European Court of Human Rights since they cannot run for state presidency due to their ethnic background being neither of the 3 constitutive nations and won the case. EU asked Bosnia and Herzegovina to implement the ruling, named C. Finci, which would require changing electoral laws and perhaps the constitution. Croat political parties also complain about the lack of a public broadcasting system in Croatian, focused on the Croatian community, as well as about unequal funding their cultural and education institutions receive in the federation. the largest town with Croat majority, Mostar, with a sizable Bosniak minority, has been in a gridlock since 2008 since the two communities cannot agree on the electoral rules for local elections. Dissatisfied with the representation of Croats in the federation, Croat political parties insist on creating a Croat-majority federal unit instead of several cantons. SDA and other Bosniak parties strongly oppose this. In January 2017, Croatian National Assembly stated that if Bosnia and Herzegovina wants to become self-sustainable, then it is necessary to have an administrative territorial reorganization, which would include a federal unit with the Croatian majority. It remains the permanent aspiration of the Croatian people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. As we progress, let's shine a spotlight on Croatian self-rule and examine its intricate interplay within our topic. In 2000, the Office of the High Representative in the country imposed amendments to the Federation's constitution and its electoral law, which complicated its structure and impaired the parity between Bosniaks and Croats that had been in force. Dissatisfied Croat politicians set up a separate Croatian National Assembly, held a referendum parallel to the elections, and proclaimed Croatian federal unit in Croat-majority areas in the Federation Croatian self-government or self-rule, Hrvatska samoprava. The federation was declared obsolete and Croat soldiers in Federation's army and Croat customs and police officers were asked to pledge allegiance. Croatian self-rule was supposed to be a temporary solution until the controversial amendments and election rules are overturned. The attempt ended shortly after a crackdown by SFOR and judiciary proceedings. With our foundation established, it's time to explore since 2001 and its relevance to our overarching theme. Since 2001, various Croatian politicians and parties in different electoral cycles have proposed creating a federal unit with a Croatian majority. Sometimes, it is proposed as a federal unit within the Croat-Bosniak Federation, while others have proposed dismantling the federation into two separate entities, Croat and Bosniak-majority ones, respectively, and thus ending up with three entities on a national level, the third being current Republika Srpska. One of the few worked-out reform proposals calling for an establishment of a Croat federal unit within the federation was sketched out before the 2014 general elections by a minor Croat party, Croatian Republican Party HRS. According to HRS, Croat-majority federal unit would assume the powers and competencies currently held by cantons in the federation. Federation would continue to exist as a federation of a Croat majority and a Bosniak majority canton, together with few mutually shared districts. Federation's bicameral parliament would be retained. The House of People's Deputies would be elected in canton and district assemblies by assembly members from respective nations, proportionate to their share in the canton's population. SIS proposal. The most prominent Croatian parties HDZ BiH, HDZ 1990 and HSS, assembled together in Croatian National Assembly, have so far failed to deliver anything more than a mere concept. Dragan Ovi, president of one of the main Croatian party in Bosnia, Croatian Democratic Union of Bosnia and Herzegovina, said that all Croatian parties will propose that Bosnia and Herzegovina be divided into three ethnic entities, with Sarajevo as a separate district. Croatian politicians must be the initiators of a new constitution which would guarantee Croats the same rights as to other constituent peoples. Every federal unit would have its legislative, executive and judiciary organs. He claimed the two-entity system is untenable and that Croats have been subject to assimilation and deprived of basic rights in the federation with the Bosniaks. In July 2014, the International Crisis Group published a report, Bosnia's Future, among others, proposing establishing Croat entity and reorganizing the country in three entities. Political scientist from Macalester College and Georgetown University, Valentino Kubovac, proposed the establishment of a Croat entity in his 2016 book Unequal Democracy as the optimal solution. He proposed assigning same powers that Republika Srpska currently holds to new Croat and Bosniak entities, possibly changing borders of municipalities to better reflect ethnic composition and turning Jedž into a Croat-Bosniak district like BiH today. Croat entity would also look out for the well-being and protection of Croats in other entities, while introducing strong legal protection and guarantees of rights of other nationalities in Croat-majority entity. In his December 2016 essay in the Foreign Affairs, Timothy Less argued that the U.S. foreign policy should accept the Croats' demand for a third entity in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the medium term, the United States should allow to form close political and economic links with, such as allowing dual citizenship and establishing shared institutions, as this would enable the population to satisfy their most basic political interests. David Buchanan, an adjunct professor of international relations at Johns Hopkins University and a former senior intelligence analyst for the CIA, pointed out in February 2017 that Bosniak politicians' unilateral policy justifies the Croats' demand for their own entity. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore constitutional principles through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Constitutional Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina, in its landmark decision on the constituency of peoples, ruled that let's now enter the realm of territory and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. It is unclear what territory Croat federal unit would encompass. It is generally assumed it would comprise Croat-majority municipalities in the country, but the criteria haven't been clearly defined whether two-thirds majority, absolute majority, or plurality would be required. In some municipalities, especially in central Bosnia, Croats have a small majority, Vitez 55%, or just plurality, Mostar 48.4%, Vukovar 49.5%. CUP's 2014 proposal assumed that in central Bosnia, Vitez, Jedž, Vukovar, Dobretiye, Kisiljak, Krivo and Novi Travnik, together with the eastern Croat-majority part of Fonica municipality, would become part of the Croat canton, while Ganjivac, Uskj, Travnik, and Mostar would be districts in Bosniak Croat condominia. However, this proposal came before the 2013 census results had been published. Contrary to the previously held assumptions, these showed that Jedž and Novi Travnik did not have Croat majority. Dragan Ovi, Croat member of the state presidency, claimed in 2017 that the Croat entity will encompass Herzegovina, Posavina, Yep, and parts of central Bosnia. At the end of 2016, Croat Catholic Cardinal Vinko Pulji stated that he believed Croat entity would have to include parts of Republika Srpska territory as well. Some academic proposals, as well as partially CUP's 2014 proposal with respect to Fonica and somewhat the proclaimed area of Croatian self-government in 2001, envisaged changing borders of municipalities in mixed Bosniak Croat areas, Mostar, central Bosnia, in order to encompass larger share of Croats there. The International Crisis Group pointed out that the vestiges of Croat territorial autonomy in the Federation exist in the form of the area served by the electricity utility Elektroprivreda HCHB, which covers most areas of Croat habitation, Croatian Post Mostar, HT Mostar, and so on. These are areas that were under control of Herzeg Bosnia and Croatian Defense Council HBO in late 1995. In February 2017, Croatian Peasant Party of Bosnia-Herzegovina President Mario Karamati said HSS will demand a re-establishment of Croatian Republic of Herzeg Bosnia in its 1995 shape if the Republika Srpska ceases. As far as the Herzeg Bosnia's tentative territory, Karamati proposed the area served by the electricity utility Elektroprivreda HCHB. As we transition, let's shed light on demographics and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. In February 2017, Croatian language newspaper in Bosnia, VNG List, published a proposal for a Croat entity that would include all of the Croat majority or plurality municipalities, 24 in total. Out of 497.883 Croats that live in FBIT, 372.276 or 75% would live in the Croat federal unit. It would have a population of 496.385, with the ethnic breakdown as follows: Croats 75%, 111.821, Bosniaks 22.5%, 9.2, Serbs 1.9%. This would make the Croat entity virtually a symmetric version of the current federation: 70% Bosniak, 22% Croat, 2% Serb. If only the western, Croat-inhabited part of most municipality is included in the entity, this would reduce the number of Bosniaks in the Croat entity by roughly 45,000 and increase Croat majority to 83%. If Gunji-Vakuf Uskpij municipality would be divided into Croat and Bosniak majority municipalities to be added to two entities, respectively, VNG list claims that as much as 83% of federations Croats would end up in the Croat federal unit. Without further ado, let's move on to the topic of opinion polls. Share of Croatian or overall population that believes creating a third, Croat entity would be the best solution for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos? Let me know in the comments.